Hello, and welcome to this episode of Firearms Friday here at the Wyoming State Museum in Cheyenne. I'm Evan Green. I'm a volunteer at the museum, and I've been working with the staff to update information on the firearms in the museum's permanent collection. It's a wonderful opportunity for me as a longtime gun collector and gun aficionado, and with a great interest in the history of the American frontier. So today we have a fairly interesting, very interesting revolver, actually. And we're going to start with this one. And you'll notice that it has a red tag. And that red tag means that it is loaded. This is a percussion revolver, and at least 4 of the 6 chambers on this revolver still contain lead balls, and we assume behind those lead balls is a charge of black powder. Because loading and unloading a percussion revolver was a lengthy process, it's fairly common to find these firearms, percussion firearms, that are loaded. And even though they have hung on the wall or laid on the ground for years, it is still possible that they could fire. So if you encounter one of these, a percussion firearm, the way to test it is to put a wooden dowel down the barrel. Thank you. And it will tell you whether or not that firearm is loaded. So we bring this back out and lay it up against the barrel and cylinder, and you can see that the chamber under the hammer is not loaded, but the ones in front are. See, there's one that's loaded. So again, this calls for very careful handling, and need to check those out to make sure that they are safe. Again, because unloading them is a real problem, and probably more dangerous than leaving them as a wall hanger or storing them away. This particular revolver was picked up at the site of the Bates Battlefield in Wyoming, and I'd never heard of the Bates Battlefield until we started looking at this revolver. But it was in July of 1874, Colonel Bates, with a contingent of cavalrymen, had 63 cavalrymen, 20 white and Indian scouts, and about 150 Shoshone warriors under Chief Washakie. And they were responding to a perceived threat that the Shoshones' traditional enemies, Northern Cheyenne, Sioux, and Northern Arapaho, were going to mount an attack on Washakie's village. So Bates and his cavalry organized a preemptive strike and attacked an Arapaho village. Went well for the cavalry at the start, but the Arapaho were able to flank the group, and Bates had to retreat, leaving 4 dead soldiers behind and taking 5 or 6 wounded individuals during that encounter. So this pistol was picked up at that battlefield by a sheep herder in 1908. So we make the logical assumption, oh, well, one of those guys, one of those cavalry guys who was killed in that encounter dropped this revolver. Well, doing a little bit of research, we found that inventories for Bates's command indicated that they were not issued Remington revolvers. They were issued the Colt 1860 Army revolver, of which this is a very nice example. So again, you make the assumption, and turns out that it's probably incorrect. So who dropped it? Who dropped that revolver? Could have been that one of those troopers was carrying something that was not authorized issue. Could be that one of the Arapaho dropped it. Bates claimed that he had killed 25, and it should be noted that all of the details of this battle, the reason for the fight, the units involved, the number of warriors involved is all subject to debate. And of course, Bates blamed his failure to successfully attack the Arapaho because the Shoshone warriors were making too much noise. Well, is that likely? I don't really know. So anyway, it's a mystery revolver, and there's always the possibility that it had nothing to do with the Bates battle. Somebody could have dropped this years later. So again, you never know for certain. Well, sometimes you can come pretty close, but in this case, we never know for certain where this revolver came from, what its origin was. And of course, it is so, the condition is so degraded through rust and corrosion that we can't find or locate a serial number or any other information that would identify it as to possibly where it came from. So anyway, Bates battlefield, and his troops were carrying the 1860 Army revolver for the most part. Incidentally, these were the two revolvers that saw the most extensive use in the Civil War. There was about 130,000, roughly, of the Colt 1860 Army that were purchased by the U.S. government for use by Union troops, and about 125,000 of the Remington revolver that was purchased, again, for Union troops. And the third, running a poor third, was the Star single-action revolver. There were about 30,000 of those. But we have sources that say there were in the neighborhood of 200 different percussion revolvers used by the Union and Confederate troops. Basically, anything that would go bang was put to use during the Civil War. So, two fairly interesting revolvers with a great history to both of them. If you have any questions or comments, you can record your comments below, or you can stop by the museum and chat with us. We're always willing to talk heirlooms and guns. So again, thank you for watching, and have a good day.